So today we will be adding mixed numbers. And to add mixed numbers, you must have a common denominator. And to get a common denominator, you must find the least common multiple. So let's try some. So first we want to add 8 1/3 plus 6 1/2. Right now we cannot add these fractions together because this has a denominator of 3 and this has a denominator of 2. And you have to have a common denominator before you can add mixed numbers. So we're going to get a common denominator. So we're going to look at the multiples of 3 and the multiples of 2 and find their least common multiple. So if I list the multiples of 3, I'll do the first 5, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And then I look at the multiples of 2 and I'll do the first 5, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I see that they have a common multiple of 6. So 6 will become my new denominator. So 6 is my new denominator. Now, I want to figure out how I got from the old denominator to the new denominator. How did I get from 2 to 6? Well, I multiplied by 3. Whatever I do to the bottom of the fraction, I have to do to the top of the fraction. And 1 times 3 is 3. So here's my new fraction. Now I'm going to do the same to the top fraction. I'm going to figure out how did I get from 3 to 6? Well, I multiply 3 times 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. And this becomes my new fraction. Now I'm going to bring my whole numbers back in front so that I don't forget them. And now I have a common denominator, so now I can add these fractions together. 2 6 plus 3 6 equals 5 6, and 8 plus 6 equals 14. I'm going to check to make sure my fraction is in its simplest form. It is, so here is my final answer. Let's do another one. So here's our next example. We have 2 1/3 plus 3 1/4. Again, we cannot add these the way they are because they do not have a common denominator, so I need to get a common denominator first. Well, if I look at 3 and 4 and I think about the multiples of 3 and I think about the multiples of 4, I know that my common multiple is 12. Now I have to figure out how did I get from the 4 to the 12, so I'll multiply by 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. Now I want to figure out how did I get from 3 to 12. Well, I multiply by 4. And whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. So this becomes 4. I'm going to bring my whole numbers back in front so that I don't forget them. And now I'm going to add them. Because the denominators are the same, I can add them now. So 4 12 plus 3 12 is 7 12. And 2 plus 3 is 5. I'm going to check my fraction to see if it is in its simplest form. It is. So here is my final answer. Now sometimes when you get your answer, it's not going to always be in its final step. So we're going to look at some problems now where we end up with an improper fraction as our answer. So once again, we have to get a common denominator. So we want to look at 6 and 2. We want to determine what is going to be their common denominator. It'll be 6. So 6 becomes my new denominator. So now I'm going to see how did I get from 2 to 6? Well, I multiplied by 3. Whatever you do to the bottom, do to the top. Then how did I get from 6 to 6? I multiplied by 1. Whatever you do to the bottom, do to the top. Bring my whole number back in front again. And I'm going to add them up. 5 6 plus 3 6 is 8 6. And 15 plus 3 is 18. But as we can see, we have an improper fraction in our mixed number. And we cannot leave our answer as an improper fraction even when it's with a mixed number. So we have to change the improper fraction to a mixed number. Well, how do we do that? How do we change an improper fraction to a mixed number? Well, we're going to divide. Our numerator is always going to go inside the house, and our denominator is always going to go outside the house. So now I'm going to divide. 6 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. I subtract, I get 2. Nothing left to bring down, so I have a remainder of 2. 2 is going to be the numerator of my fraction, and then whatever denominator is here is going to be the denominator of this fraction. So 8/6 as a mixed number is 1 and 2/6. Now I can't just forget about the 18 that was already there. So now I'm going to add 18 back on to this mixed number. So now it's going to be 18 plus 1 and 2/6, which is going to equal 19 and 2/6. Again, I want to check to see if my fraction is in its simplest form. In this example, it is not in its simplest form because 2 and 6 can both be divided by 2. So I'm going to divide them both by 2, and it gives me 1/3, putting my whole number back in front, and my final answer is 19 and 1/3. Let's do another one. So I have 15 and 5/6, and I'm adding 3 and 1/2. Again, I need to get a common denominator. If I look at my fractions, I have a 2 and I have a 6. Well, my common denominator will be 6. Okay, just making sure we didn't do the same one. All right, so common denominator is 6. So now we're going to see how do we get from 2 to 6? Well, we multiply by 3. Whatever we do to the bottom, we're going to do to the top. Again, seeing how do we get from 6 to 6? Whatever I do to the bottom, I multiply the bottom by 1. So now I'm going to multiply the top by 1. I'm going to put my whole number back in front. When I add these together, it's going to give me 8/6. And then that gives me 18. Again, I have 18 and 8/6. I cannot leave my answer as an improper fraction. I have to change it to a mixed number. So I'm going to put my numerator inside the house, my denominator outside the house. 6 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 6 is 6. I subtract, I get 2. Nothing to bring down, so I have a remainder of 2. It becomes the numerator, and I put it over the same denominator, so it becomes 1 and 2/6. And then I have to add it to the 18. Again, it gives me 19 and 2/6. I want to put my fraction in its simplest form. They can be divided by 2, which gives me 1/3, putting my whole number back in front, and my final answer is 19 and 1/3.